Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Immersive Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Tyler. Happy to be here. Hello. We're here with another esteemed guest and friend of mine, Elia Bean. She is a certified hypnotherapist, and she is restarting the Elia Bean show, which you can check out live on her Instagram, and we'll have all of her links and everything in the bio, as always, of course. Elia, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, of course. Are you in Mexico? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in
Oh, okay.
Mexico. So I used to be based on San Diego, California.
Mm-hmm.
And about a year and a half ago, I was just called in to move to Mexico.
Very cool. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there.
So, yeah,
I
because
think
I
it's
keep going back and forth.
across the
Yeah.
border there. Yeah, absolutely. That's a unique situation. I applaud you for that.
Yeah.
So you say you were called to just kind of move to Mexico?
I mean, I feel like I needed to be here. And it was more for like my own healing, but also to help create and build community here too.
No, that's beautiful because, yeah, of course. I hear that often that I hear it a lot. I was called to live in a certain place, or they'd been to a certain place and they were called to stay or whatever. But I have heard that, and I want to make change there, but not as often as the other. So I love when I actually hear that. Like, no, I wanted the call was partially to help enact positive change in that location, not just for your own self.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to hear you acknowledge both equally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. How long have you been living in Mexico now?
So I've been here for a little bit over a year now. Honestly, probably the first few months, I probably used to cry every day, every night.
A little
Like,
homesick.
why am I doing, why did I came here? Because I was still going through my own kind of like healing process too. I had just had a baby, I getting out of like a relationship and doing it all by myself. And so it was tough. It was a lot of pressure. I felt like I had a lot over my shoulders. So, but coming here, even though, yeah, for those few months, it was really challenging.
Imagine.
It was so necessary for me to come back to my roots
Yeah.
and reconnect to my roots and reconnect to even other modalities that I didn't even, I kind of acknowledged it, but it wasn't like I was really doing it. So I joined this group of people that are the descendant of a tribe, the Dakota tribe.
Okay.
And so I started going to do Temazcal with them. And now I'm doing it basically once a week.
Yeah, I see those retreat Temescal ads and, well, not ads, you know what I mean, the posts and such regarding them, and I think that's cool. So cool. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt.
No, it's okay. So it has become part of my practice, but even though it is a very physical practice, it is also a very spiritual practice.
Of
And it
course.
truly like connected me to the roots of maybe my Native American roots too, like that sacredness of it. And as much as it does help you to purify it detoxify the body very like amazing, it also helps to purify the soul too. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I highly recommend it to anybody. I don't get paid to recommend them or anything like that. So, but I do highly recommend it to people to, that they're looking into something like that. And so moving here was part of that, and then so many other things, like the fact that they really recognize and embrace and respect the sacredness of the mother and child relationship. I mean,
Okay.
there were times where, when I moved here, I took like almost like a full year off from everything. And didn't even work, right? So I was kind of living off my savings. So I was always
Savings and
on a budget, right? So I was always on a budget and, even going to the grocery store and, pushing the little car and holding the baby. And I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I wish somebody comes and helps me with, I wish somebody could help me with, push the car and put the stuff in the car. And honestly, like, I have someone behind me running after me and saying like, "Oh, let me help you with the car and let me put the stuff in your car." And I seen that it was like one time after another time until I got it, until I really got the fact that we are so protected, that that we are provided for, universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it's always
Yeah,
there. He's always there, or
goes by many names, but we're all talking about the same thing. I say that a lot. Like, come on, God, universe, whatever,
yes.
whatever you call it. We're saying this. We're speaking the same language.
Right, right. I still do like to call it Father, just because
Yeah,
that's just part of maybe my belief,
whatever works best for
reli-
you.
religious background too. So even though I don't practice religion, I have, still have respect for religion. But I just call him, Father. Yeah. It's in a very endearing kind of way.
Right, right. No, that works for. I mean, I really believe that. Like, then I mean, there's plenty of clips of me saying that very sentence, like enlisting 15 different words and then saying, or whatever you call it. But yeah, I mean, I, I, I used to say God. I tend to say universe.
Hmm.
And I'll say it kind of depends on the audience. I mean, if I'm
Yeah.
speaking to people who are going to not really be receptive to me saying the word universe and they're going to be like,
Yeah.
insert God. It means the same thing to me. It doesn't make any difference.
Right.
I think we get caught up a little too much on this, like that can kind of divide people. It's like, no, 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 no. We're saying
Yeah.
the same thing.
Right. Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
good point.
Whatever you want to call it. I still participate in a Bible study.
Yeah.
I do love the Bible, and I love to dissect it, and I study it in a very different, unique way now. But I still enjoy having those conversations with some people that are still religious, and I have Bible studies with them.
Yeah. So it's seems like it's another part of kind of staying in touch with your roots a little bit, but integrating the Elia now, who Elia's grown into, the things that
Right.
you were. I mean, I'm sure you just skimmed the surface there when you were talking, just the examples that you gave,
Yeah.
grocery store, things like that. But
Right.
who you've grown into through those periods of
Oh, absolutely.
tribulation, which now might be more like a testimony. Like that was the time that helped me grow.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, there was another time where I was at the beach, and then me and my baby were like playing at the beach. We're in the water, and I have my stuff set up on the side, and then this guy, like a homeless person, and I don't have anything against homeless people, okay? But he was
Of course.
just sitting right next to my stuff. And it's not like I was afraid that he was going to steal my stuff or anything like that. It was just the fact that what he was doing, it was just his presence, his energy. And that's another thing, is like I'm so in tune with my intuition, with my nervous system. I listen to my body.
Hmm.
And so my body was just like having that reaction of feeling uncomfortable. And so
Yeah.
in that moment, I just kind of like say like a little prayer, or, you can say a little prayer, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
right? And I just say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable right now, so I need you to send me someone to protect me right now. I need you to keep us protected. And I got out of the water, walked down to, my stuff, where my stuff was, right? And, I'm holding my baby, of course. And he's like, "Oh, I hope that this didn't make you feel uncomfortable." And I was like, "Well," I'm like, "Not that you say it. Of course, it makes me feel very uncomfortable, right?" But I didn't say that. I just say like, "Well, what is that?" And he was like, "Oh, this," and he's making a circle with like little pebble stones. And then in the middle, he had like a bunch of little pebble stones. And I was like, "This looks like a little ritual kind of a
Yeah. Like,
something,
what's
not."
this guy doing?
Yes. And so he's like, "Oh, this is your family. This is your ancestors." And
Wow.
I was like, "Okay." And I
Okay.
grab my stuff and I move away, right? I'm not kidding. Like 2 minutes later, there's this two big military Marine guys
Oh wow.
walked up. They, walked past me, and they went and talked to the guy.
Felt
And they
safe right away, huh?
literally, they put a line, and
Hmm.
they told him, You cannot
It's
move
like
from this line while she's playing at the beach with her baby. And then
a,
they
li-
came to
a
me,
line drawn in the sand. I love it.
and then they walked them, back to me, and they're like, you know what, he's not well, like he's not mentally stable. But we told him, he cannot move from this space, this line,
Of
and
course.
while you're at the playing with your baby, and if you feel uncomfortable, you can just let us know. There's more of us
Absolutely.
watching up in the tower, and there's like a tower up there, and they're watching. So that's exactly how they knew that I needed, that I was feeling uncomfortable. They
Mm,
noticed, they were watching the whole time, and so they just came by, right? And I do feel
or
like that's exactly how it works, right? You put your message into, and Dolores Cannon used to say this too, right?
of
It's like
course.
we have angels, and they're just waiting for us to like ask them.
They're waiting for
And they
asking for
go and they're
specifics.
like, right away, I'll get this done right away. And that's how it works. That's really how it works. And for me, it was the fact that I really needed to trust the process, trust
Right.
in my
Trust that
in
you
my
could
divine
ask
purpose.
and receive. That's hard for a lot of us, I think, to just
And that
simple
was very
concept.
hard for me. That was very difficult for me to receive because I always been very independent since I was a
Right.
kid. I always been very independent, and so receiving was difficult for me. But
Yeah.
being
And,
here has really opened me to receive. Just to be in that place of like receive, just receive. And so it's been a beautiful experience for me to see it unfold, and just the people that I'm starting to like reconnect in some ways or connect. And then also just trusting that God is there. I mean, I had
absolutely.
the most like crazy experience. It was like back on 2020.
Hmm.
I was driving in my car, and I was driving back from, it was on January 1st, 2020. We were driving back. It was my son and I were driving back from a New Year's Eve party.
Okay.
And, I wasn't even drinking or anything because I had my son with me. I've never been a big drinker or anything like that.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we're driving back, and we're on this road getting back into, my house, and the road is empty, but I'm trying to fall asleep. I never fallen
Mm.
asleep on the wheel. Never.
Highway hypnosis. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yes. And anyway, so I just kept driving. I was like, I'm pretty close. I'm getting close. I'm getting close. My son is in the back of the car, of course. He fell asleep. As soon as he got in the car, he fell asleep. And to be honest, I didn't see if he put his seatbelt on or not.
Oh
Okay.
my goodness.
So we're driving, and then all of a sudden, we're probably like 5 minutes to get to the house. And then this other car just comes out from the side and hits me in the sideways. So it made my car roll over,
That's
and we
crazy.
were rolling over for, I don't know, like a few times.
I was
We
gonna
went
say,
from one corner to completely another corner, and my car ended up like the opposite side, but it fell on its wheels.
wow.
Okay,
Yeah, I was thinking
everything
when a
was,
car rolls once, it usually rolls more than once.
yeah,
If not a
my
good
car
thing.
rolled many times
Wow.
to the point where it fell on its wheels, but it was facing the opposite way. But during that while it was rolling over, I feel like that was kind of like my very first encounter of, I don't know, what do you want to call it, ET,
Like
angels,
divine,
divine
divine intervention kind of thing.
divine intervention, whatever, right? And you can communicate telepathically, right? And so there's this being communicating with me, and there's like, don't worry about it. You're being protected. You are very protective, so you have nothing to worry about. And I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, even though my car was like rolling over, I had this
Oh, good.
immense sense of comfort that everything was gonna be okay. And
That's beautiful.
as
Absolutely.
soon as the car hit the ground the first time, the windshield just exploded, right? And it's like tiny little pieces. I'm completely
Yeah.
covered up in glass.
Yeah, I know how they break into those little tiny pebbles that aren't like shards, but they're little everywhere.
Yeah.
It's
So
weird.
I'm completely covered in glass. My seat is completely covered in glass, right? Everything's like completely like broken and everything. But I couldn't turn back. I couldn't turn to the back to see if my son was okay.
Um,
I could just see his shoes flying like, by me. And in that
so
moment I
weird.
just asked, you know what, I get it. I understand that, and even before we got hit, I was like, okay, it's inevitable. We're gonna get hit, right? We're gonna get into a car accident. I don't care about the car. Don't really care about the car. It's I just want to make sure that we're okay.
Make sure you
And
guys are all right. That's number one at that time. Yeah, of
and
course.
so then in that moment, when I could see my son's shoes flying by me, I just asked, this being. I said, you know what? I understand that I'm completely protected. Nothing's gonna happen to me. I know that, but I want you to make sure that my son is completely protected too. I don't know if he put his seatbelt on, so I need you to make sure that he has it on. And when the car stopped, first of all, nothing. Absolutely nothing happened to me and my son. Not even a scratch. The
All
only
that rolling and
only
everything, you just.
the only little scratch I had is because when the car stopped, I started like, dusting myself off, and I
Brushed a
had
little
one
glass on yourself.
little scratch in my chest.
Oh my goodness.
That was it.
That's incredible, Elia. And I'm so happy that you're okay. And wow.
Yes.
But
But that
MPT, I just wanted to say that first, of course. Very happy that
that
you're
to me
okay.
showed me that we are divinely protected, like
Hmm.
extremely protected. I just know that now. I have no doubt. I have no doubt. I have no fear of death. I have no fear of somebody wanting to hurt me or anything like that, because I know that we are divinely protected.
Yeah. I
And when the car stopped, it's like I knew exactly what to do. Took my seatbelt off, jump in the back seat. I grabbed my son. My son is, he's 16 now. This was what,
It was some years ago.
and so he was like 13, I don't
Okay,
know,
so yeah. I
almost
remember
12.
thought you said it wasn't 2020, right? You said. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, but
I was
still,
trying to. I was doing the math in my
he
head.
was still a big boy, okay? He was still a big boy. But in that moment, I was able to carry him like he was a baby, as
Oh
if he was
wow.
a baby. And he had his seatbelt on.
And he did have
And
his
he was
seatbelt on.
sleeping. He
Yes.
was sleeping through the whole time when the car was rolling. He was still sleeping.
Wow. So that is
He
very
only woke up.
interesting.
He only woke up because the car stopped, and then in that moment he freaked out and he was like, "Oh my God, Mom, the glass is broken. What's happening?" Right? And I said,
That's
"It's okay.
incredible.
We've been into a car accident. I want to make sure. Are you okay? Are you okay? Can you move? Can you walk? Can you?" And he was like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, my back is hurting, but I'm okay." And so, anyways, got him out of the car, and then see the police, the fire department coming in. I had the fire department running, right? And then there's like fire department
Yeah.
firefighter like running, right, standing right in front of me and like breathing hard. And he's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yes." I'm like so
Just
so
fine.
so calm. I was like,
Oh.
"Yes, everything is okay." And I'm like touching myself, like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Doing a double check, a double
Right.
take, make sure
Let me
everything's good.
double check, make sure that yeah. I
Mhm.
was like, "Yes, everything is fine. I'm okay."
I didn't think so, but it seems that I am.
Yeah. And anyways, I took my son to the ER the next morning because we wanted to make sure that he was okay, because he was still
Mhm.
complaining about his ribs. And took him to get an X-ray and all that stuff. And we were at the ER and we told them the whole story. And the doctor's name was also my son's name, which is Matthew. And he was like, so like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you guys were in a rollover accident. Like, are you kidding me?" Like, he's like, "And you're fine?" He's like, "Are you sure you don't want us to check you?" And I was like, "No, I'm okay. Just check him." And he was fine. I saw his X-ray, and before the doctor came in to tell us something, I saw the X-ray, and I said, "Everything is fine. There's nothing broken."
That's so
And
good.
the nurse was like looking at me like, "Well, like we gotta wait for the doctor to to tell us what's going on, right? And I was like, okay. So anyways, like doctor comes in, he's like, dude, there's nothing broken. You're all good. And I was like, yeah. And so I was
Hmm.
like, see. And so
Told
my
you.
son has said, you know what, mom, if there's everything is fine with me, we should go to the movies. We should go get something to eat and then go to the movies. And so it's January 1st. I can't get a rental car because everything is closed.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
we're
makes sense.
so we're like, traveling, or I guess, using, Lyft, Uber, whatever. And right. And so then we get to we eat, and then we go to the movies, and then we're waiting for another car to take us back home. And we're standing outside, and he's standing, and he looks at me, and he was like, I am never going to forget this day. He's like, and to be honest, mom, he's like, I don't remember putting my seatbelt on.
Oh my goodness.
He never puts his seatbelt on till this day. Okay. He gets in the car, and I have to remind him every time, hey, you got to put your seatbelt on.
So I'm curious on that one. Did you guys had you talked to him about the seatbelt thing since? Or was that the first like random mentioning of a
That
seatbelt?
was his first random mention. And honestly, I
That's
think
pretty
at
cool.
that time I wasn't completely, that was kind of like I would say that just kind of triggered this whole, spiritual awakening for me. That
And
was that was a
that's
trigger. I wouldn't say that I would, even that year I went through like other like changes, and I was um, still too much into, the party mode, and
yeah,
which I have
no
my fun.
faults. Nobody faults anybody,
Right,
It's
I was doing all this like fun stuff.
you're here now.
Yes, yes, but I wasn't in really into this whole. But that's when I started practicing hypnotherapy, because before that I wasn't practicing. I wasn't practicing as a therapist. I have a business here in Mexico at that time, and I was doing other stuff, and I wasn't really practicing as a therapist.
Right.
But that really, I lost my business after 2020. It was like after
Yeah. Rough
COVID.
year.
COVID hit us, right? I lost my
Yeah.
investment, I lost my business, I lost a lot of things that needed to be, because I needed to detach from that. I really needed to detach from the worldly stuff that, that life, that we think that it's, success and money and all these things, right? And nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong about it, right? But we deserve to be abundant. But I think I had a different kind of mindset at the time. So, anyways, had to lose it. There we go.
That's great,
Yes.
Elia, that you can see that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I identify with that
Mm.
because I get the question a lot, like, so what prompted your spiritual awakening? Or things like that, and it's kind of cut and dry. The
Yeah.
way that you had just laid all that out was it's nothing prompted it. Like it was a series of
It was a
what I
series of
heard, a,
fortunate
se-
events.
a series of what seemed like unfortunate events, and they might very well be. Also, along with them comes those little series of
Yes.
isn't it
Well, because of
is
it,
that
I was.
divine intervention? And you start questioning it a little more each time. You start to
Yeah,
see the divine, the plan, the
absolutely. I
the
mean,
greater picture there.
yeah, I mean, honestly, because of it, I went back and I started practicing as a therapist. So I started practicing as a hypnotherapist now.
Yeah.
And I could see, and then slowly I'm seeing, but it's still, I'm still a scientist, and that's how I see things, right? But
Yeah.
at least that's how I saw it at the time. That's how I was seeing it at the time. It was like, yeah. And even till now, I still people, I'm a scientist, I'm very nerdy, and I will tell you all the benefits about this and that, and how I've been like doing this and mixing all this stuff together, and I experiment on myself. Basically, I'm my own experiment.
It's okay. I mean, though, to me, I think it's all like because I see the stuff that you like do, like as far as what you post and things like. What's wrong with talking about natural shakes and different plants and herbs and stuff that go into a drink that might be
Mm-hmm.
healthy for you? Like it's all good.
Yes,
It helps
absolutely
everybody. It's not anything
helps.
bad.
Yes, everything
Absolutely.
helps, and absolutely. And so that's how I started practicing as a hypnotherapist. I started my practice. I started helping people to lose weight.
Okay. Yeah, because hypnotherapy can be for everything. It's not just regressions.
Yeah, so I was helping people to lose weight with hypnosis, with hypnotherapy.
Hmm.
And then I had this one client who, at the time, he was in Hawaii. He's in LA now.
Okay.
And I did the past life regression on him, but I wasn't really doing a past life regression. I was just doing a regression therapy, right? I'm a
Right.
scientist.
Hmm.
At this time, at this moment, I was still just considering myself a scientist.
Yeah, still regression therapy makes perfect sense.
Therapist, sociologist, psychologist, whatever. Um, and so I do the regression on him, and he goes back to a lifetime that wasn't his lifetime. It was his mother's lifetime. His
Okay.
mother had already passed. Grandma had already passed, but he can't understand why he was feeling the way he was feeling. Very depressed. He had like no sense of like his self worth. And I mean, I'm talking about a guy who was a model. He wanted to be an actor. He had been acting since he was little. So, good looking man.
Right.
But he felt like he had just this like depression. He didn't feel good about himself.
Right.
And
Because it's all
so many,
perception.
right? And so when we did the regression therapy, he went back to be able to heal that a part that he was still holding on to. And we know that with epigenetics, right, that we hold, the body has memory and it holds in the memories of our parents, right? And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah, that's that generational trauma. People hear that term all the time, but that's what you just said. That's pretty much what that is.
absolutely, yes. But
Cellular
but
memory. It's
but I wasn't trained for that. Remember,
okay.
I wasn't trained for the whole past life regression thing.
So it's kind of a shock to you to go into a regression session and this guy go back
I
way
wanted to
before he was
stop it.
born.
I wanted to stop it, and in that moment, the voice, right, came in, and they were like, "You cannot stop. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep going, and you gotta finish it, and you gotta help them." And I was like, "Okay, okay."
Yeah.
So I just kept going. I just kept my cool, and I kept going, and we finished. He was done, and I mean, major changes in his life after that. And
So,
major changes in my life after that too, because then I started connecting the Dolores Cannon method,
okay.
and I'm very very connected to Dolores Cannon, and I keep bringing her on every single time I talk. Every single time I talk, like in public, it's like she's in my head. She just comes and like gives me a little message in there, right?
A
And
little
it's
Dolores wisdom every once in a while when you need it.
yes, absolutely. So I keep on
Yeah.
quoting her a lot, and I could see it now, but I also made my own method now. I grab things that really work for me, things that I saw that really work for my patients, and I made my own method now. And so I mix obviously hypnotherapy, regression therapy in there, but I
And
also
there's some elements of the like traditional Dolores QHHT method, but
absolutely
yeah, you know with some Malaya in there, of course.
yes.
Elia in there in the recipe.
Yes, and so I studied rapid transformational therapy, and so that's how I learned, to be a hypnotherapist.
Okay.
But I added all the energetic, so I started energetic NLP, and and other stuff. And so the energy in it. And so now I work with the cellular level too. So, command cell therapy and just make my own little mix. And then now I also add the red light therapy as well, which works at a cellular level. It
Okay.
just helps to regenerate. So that's where my vision is, that medicine, the field of medicine. So, a little background about myself is like I am a marriage and family therapist. That was my major. But
Okay.
before that, I was majoring in zoology and I wanted to go for veterinary school.
Vet. Yeah, vet.
Switched it, switched my major many times. Then I switched it to pre-med because I wanted to go to be a nurse. And I did all the, prerequisites for nursing, which I'm really glad I did because now I have that knowledge too of the body,
Very valuable
right? The
knowledge.
anatomy of the body, the physiology of the body. So I understand it too now, but now I understand it at a much deeper level because it's like working with the energy of the emotions that is affecting a specific part of our body, and now it's
Mhm.
becoming a disease.
Yeah, that seems to be the leading thought. I mean, not in medicine yet, Western medicine anyway, but I mean, it's air apparent to me. If I'm not in denial and I'm really like paying attention, that seems to be the thing right now. Is that we're discovering that our emotions and our thoughts really do not just have a tiny influence, or they don't just sway us one way or the other, but they really can make us sick. I mean, physically
Yeah.
sick. And it can truly just be an emotional thing or a blockage. And some people refer to it in, the chakras, one of them
Black.
being blocked, or there's many different ways that I've heard. But again, it's one of those things where it seems like we're all kind of hinting at the same idea that no, there's a common denominator up there. It's an emotional thing. It's not you don't have stomach problems. You have a something problem and it's manifesting as a stomach problem or whatever. And of course, I'm not a doctor or anything. I'm
Right.
speaking as a layperson. That's what
Yeah.
I do speak to a lot of people on these kind of matters, and I hear
Yes.
it so much, but it excites me because I tend to believe that, um, and I, I've went through that myself personally when I had my kind of when I really changed my life and went towards a path of just being myself, seeking myself, and I actually did something very similar to what you did, where I just lived off savings for a while because I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't know what to do, but I knew it wasn't what I was doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, when you were describing your story, and people have heard me describe my story here before, but it's very much similar. Just I left a pretty good job, something that I probably could have been fine doing forever, but I
Mm-hmm.
just I don't know. Divine intervention. Something told me to just like you can use your time better. You got a lot of time, and you can use it better. That answer wasn't revealed right away. It was dripped like in little signs that each one I believed in more and more and more than the next. And then there came a point where those signs became undeniable.
Mm.
And but with what I was getting at is the physical transformation, and well, first the emotional, the mental framework, how I choose to divine things, the
Mm-hmm.
verbiage I use. That was first. Then what came was, of course, a complete and total like reset of just mental framework, how I see the world, how I see myself in relation to the world and others, and everything changed. My body changed. A lot about me has changed, and I don't mean like things that make sense. They don't make sense. I got three really good examples that are like they don't make any damn sense. I've lost 140 pounds in 20 months without trying. Like I don't go to the gym. I drink milkshakes all the time. Like I eat a little healthier than I once did because I'm very involved in like the holistic medicine movement and things like that. I have a holistic doctor with whom I work very closely. We throw a holistic health summit here in Tampa. It's like an in-person event every year. It's all for charity. It's great. And that'll be February 1st, 2025. That's for
Okay.
another time. But yeah, I didn't change anything at all, but I dropped all this just what seemed to be representative of just blockages. You know, when you're I was severely overweight. I'm 5'7", and I was in the 270s pounds range. Like, I was not a healthy person at all.
Right.
I mean, that wasn't good, but now I almost see that as like there was literal blockages there. There was things that were holding me
Yeah.
down, things that were keeping me that way. And it's when my mind changed, my intentions changed, and I actually stepped into those actions is when, like, I just started noticing things changing. And I'm just all over the place, I'm sure, like you, but my eyes changed color. They literally changed color. They've been the same color. I'm 32 years old. They've been the same color my whole life, and they just changed color.
Yeah.
They used to be dark, dark, dark brown, and all of a sudden everybody's telling me your eyes changed color, your eyes changed color. And it's not a sometimes thing, they changed.
Yeah.
The weight thing I can't explain because I still eat the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I found is that is once you get rid of the shame and the guilt, you're not eating shame and guilt anymore.
Right.
You can eat whatever you want to eat and still enjoy it. And I eat whatever I want to eat. I mean, I'm more mindful of how, and I always
Yeah.
been like this. I'm always been the health nut kid since I was little. I quit eating chips when I was in 4th grade, and I quit drinking soda when I was in 6th grade.
You're ahead of the curve. That's good.
I quit drinking soda during that time, and I don't drink soda. I still don't drink it as much. So I
I
always
don't
kind
even.
of have a little bit of that mindfulness of, okay, I'm gonna eat this, but I'm not gonna eat this. But I eat pretty much out every single day.
Yeah, me too.
Because, okay, one thing is, and I don't want to say because I'm, a single mom with a baby, and it's just, but it's true. Honestly, living here in Mexico has allowed me to do that because sometimes it's cheaper to eat out
Cheaper. Yeah.
than to buy food, and then my food goes, to waste. I don't cook as much. I keep the basic stuff, in my fridge, and of course for my baby too, because she needs her milk, her organic, eggs. I have to have that,
Yeah.
organic bananas. I have to have that at home, and other stuff that she likes. But other than that, I eat out a lot, and
So,
but every single time I'm always eating with that. I put that intention of, I love this. I'm so grateful for this food. And
absolutely.
I just know that when you love your food is going to love you back. And that is one thing that I help my clients change that mindset of,
Yeah.
um, just you can eat as much as you want, or you eat a little bit less. And that's
Yeah.
another thing that I used to put in my script for weight loss was that from now on, every time you're about to sit down in front of you, you're going to make a fist, you're going to look at your fist, and that's all you can eat because your stomach is the size of your fist.
Size of your fist, pretty much.
And so every patient, every client that went through that, they still remember that. They still remember that their stomach is the size of the fist, and so they eat less, and they're starting to lose the weight, and it's they keep it off because they're able to also let go of the shame and the guilt, and
So it's a
that is the
framework
key. That is
change.
the key. It's like once you let go of the shame and the guilt, you're not eating shame and guilt anymore.
Absolutely.
You're
That's
just
really
enjoying
profound.
your food. You're changing that relationship with the food
Hmm.
and with
And that
everything around you,
could
right?
be said with everything too, everything around us. And yeah,
Absolutely.
it's so that's like ridding that attachment to, and what I identify in that is like your logic, reason, science, etc. I also was always very much that way. Like, I needed to analyze everything, and I needed to intellectualize everything, and I still kind of do that. I'm definitely not perfect, but I always was very much that person who like. I needed to ask 1,000 questions and really, really like put it through the Tyler test. to see if it was like, if it held credence, if it was scientifically sound. Like, don't try
Yeah.
to teach me something that doesn't make, that you can't prove.
Right.
That's, I mean, of course, it depends on the arena. May still kind of act like that. I'm not gonna lie. I still have room to improve. We all do. But as far as like major life decisions go, and just things that are personal choices, things like that, I have such an easier time these days, and it's got to do with ridding attachments, like you said earlier. That's kind of the theme. And listeners, anybody here, if you're picking up on something, I feel like there's a theme of you've got to rid the attachments to things that you may be too attached to.
Yes.
And that's something that I think deserves a little, just extra recognition, because we hear that term, rid attachments, etc. We're
Mhm.
going to go into what that really means. And of course, it's different for everybody. But
Yeah.
one thing I can say is I think most people think ridding attachments just generally means like to stop caring about money or material things at all. And
Yeah.
well, I don't think that's correct.
Well, the word attachment by itself, it is attached. It's, I know it's like redundant, right? But the word attachment is attached to the root cause of attachment is trauma. So if you have an attachment, it's because there's a root there that is attached to a trauma. So somebody who is always like on the go, 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 right? Like for example, like very independent woman, a very independent woman is, it's also, there's an attachment there, right? Because you're
Right.
attached to like wanting to be successful, wanting to be independent, and wanting to do all these things. But it's a defense mechanism.
Yeah. And I think it can hold us back, because I was that way. I thought I had assets, like what I thought were like attributes that were positive, and like, oh, this is something that I can use in my favor, like intelligence, intellect, when used in a different way, the ability to question everything and always be suspicious, and have
Yes.
that scientific brain where you're always asking, like, but what if this? Well, what if this? And again, I'm not saying anything's inherently good or inherently bad, but that was an over attachment to my own intellect, thinking that I was like the one who was gonna, make sure everything was the way it was, and then I was gonna see it through those lenses. And what that did was, I mean, I guess what you would, looking back, what that did was make me look at everything through the lens of my eyes only. Like, and that makes it really hard to see reflections of yourself in others, and to have those growth experiences, that those times where you really connect with another human being, those times when you really feel like we're not alone, we're all in this together. You can believe all that, but I was so attached to, just one thing, like my intellect. I was never really a very trusting person. I didn't grow up like in a situation where, yeah, where you would trust people around you. When I got older, I was involved in some shady things. Again, not an environment where you're really encouraged to trust everybody around you. You grow and you adapt and you survive by trusting yourself and yourself only.
Mm.
So to let go of that for me was like a huge thing, because that's when I was able to start receiving those immediate ask and receive.
Yes.
It didn't happen when I was asking for it, receiving it, and then like, okay, this is good, but and then almost metaphorically trying to like change the thing that I asked for once I got it. Like, why didn't you ask for something different then?
Right. Right. We have to be very specific with what we ask. So
And
that's been part of my journey to learn to be very specific with what I ask. But I
that's
know what I want, and so now I ask very specific questions.
that's
For
great.
very specific things. Yeah.
So that's a good question. So for people out there, and like, let's say young women out there, how
Right.
did you go? Did you go from the process of? I'm sure there was a process where you're figuring out, okay, I've got to ask exactly what I want. How did you come to a place where you knew exactly what you wanted? You don't have to disclose this, what you want, but
Okay.
was it
No.
a was it a tough spot, like finding
Yes.
what?
Yes. Okay. So I think it really helped me. My last relationship, past relationship with the father of my baby. that really put me, oh my God, it shook my world really, because I was like, oh my God, I thought I asked, for a masculine man. I thought I asked for, my soulmate. I thought I asked for all these things. And then it turns out, this is not it, right? This is probably the worst experience I have to go through. And detaching from the fact that what I wanted was a family. I wanted, I still believe in marriage.
Of course.
I still believe in, like, sacred, divine partnership and all that stuff. And so I was like, well, I guess we're not going to be a family, and I guess, my baby's not going to really grow up with her father. And I guess we're just, not going to be a family. That's so for me. And the whole, detaching from the marriage, that was a huge thing for me, right? But then
Yeah,
now
I
I
can
understand,
imagine.
it's like, no, I have to find my peace. So I have to find my own peace and reconnect with myself and understand that I am divine, that I am, a daughter, from divine nature, that I deserve, so much better than that.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
deserve everything that I want, if, everything that I ask.
Hundred
As long as
percent.
you continue to do, that's why I feel it's like, as long as you continue to do your mission, you stay in your path of what you believe is true for you, things are just gonna start coming through. Another thing that I let go is that I release the that thing that I was like, well, I'm gonna keep, and I still have my list. Okay, I still have my list of what I want in a man, and every time I would add something into the list, right? And that's
Yeah.
what relationships really helped me to see. They really helped me to see the things that I didn't want, but it also helped me to see the things that I really wanted. And I'm
Right.
taking all those things that I want and all those special things that I saw in every single man that I dated. I can put it all together in this list and make that perfect man. And I can, visualize that and manifest that. But at the same time, I needed to let go
Yeah.
the waiting time, the being impatient with, like, well, when is he
Right.
gonna show up? When is he gonna
Okay.
come? Right? And so I let go of that, and I'm at a place right now where I feel like invested in myself.
Yeah.
I'm treating myself much better now. I mean, I'm 41. I'm 41. I have 3 kids, and I don't believe in
Wouldn't
aging.
have guessed it.
I don't believe in aging. Most people, okay, I tend to date younger men more than, my own age, for the same,
I I can see that. I mean, you
right,
look younger than you are. You,
point of my life where it's like, it's not so much about the age for me.
mm,
It's just about the level of maturity that they have. And it
I
doesn't really
agree.
matter if they're older than me. It's just that if they're not at the maturity level, for me, at least for me, that spiritual level, because it has to be a man who's also spiritually invested into this too. But
Yeah.
anyhow, it was at the
That's
point where I released that. I really just I wrote it down and I just released that. And every
let it go.
once in a while, I go back and I read my list, but I'm not like waiting and asking and praying every single night for him to show up. I'm
Yeah,
not,
it's just it's
because
out there in the
because right
ether.
now I'm invested in myself. I'm investing in me. I am, I'm taking care of myself, and it's just like, when he comes, it's like I'll know. But for
No.
now, at the moment, it's like I'm just focused on my mission, focused on myself, and that's it for me right now, right? And so, when the right time comes, then I think it's things are gonna just open up to for me, for him to come together. I do feel like we're gonna probably be working together. We're gonna be doing some type of work together.
That tends to be I tend to think the same thing when I'm recently out of a very long relationship, not like yesterday, but recently this
Yeah.
year. And that was one thing that we kind of strayed on. And it wasn't something that we weren't, it wasn't something that we had opposite views on at the beginning, but I, for I'll use the term for lack of a better word, I had a real dark night of the soul and an awakening, and I did a lot of things that didn't make a lot of sense unless you were looking at it from like, oh, he's trying to evolve spiritually. Like that's the only way it made sense.
Right.
And I mean, she had like a problem with that. Everything's fine, but that was something that became as I developed more in that way and spent more time in meditation. I mean, I don't even, I do this show and I have a lot of these conversations, and I go and talk to. I love talking to people in any relation to the new earth, new
Yeah.
relationships, reading attachments, manifestation, any of this stuff, or if we're talking about aliens or disclosure, ghosts, whatever it is, the paranormal, which really just means the not normal,
Then,
extra normal,
but
more than.
that
Yeah, it is, and I identify with all of that because that was something that I didn't like consciously choose like, oh, I've got to rid my attachment to my partner, like, and that is not how that went down at all. But that's how ultimately that was the end result, and
yeah.
the universe put me in a position that at the time I was already in the place where I could at least zoom out, and I had always had hope in my mind with anything negative happening was going to be something that was a catalyst for my further awakening, my further development, and it really has been. I mean, the same. So the relationship that I'm talking about ended within the same month of my mother passing. It was like a rough couple of, it was a rough time.
Yeah.
And but I see it as like the things that happened to me during that time and why I am the way I am now, and why I can't help but attribute it to things that have happened during those times. And that's not to say like, oh, at least there's a silver lining to somebody passing or anything like that. I try not to chime in on that. That's my mother's own journey. That's her own soul contract. Me trying to keep her here longer by wishing she got better or whatever. I started to see that as like, wait, who are you to say? Like, yeah, you can hope for her to feel better and things, but she's her own soul. Like you
It
can't
shows.
change.
Yeah.
You can't change people's soul plan.
Yeah.
And of course, my partner and I had that awakening. And really, what that meant to me was I just thought of things different. The way I thought of everything was different. But people still perceived me in some ways that they were very much used to. Like, Tyler's very materialistic. Tyler only cares about money. Tyler, which not 100% true. Those are exaggerations, but those were things that I used to very much be like. You could have said that, and it would have been correct. Like, yeah, I was pretty materialistic. Doesn't mean I hate driving a Mercedes or something now, like whatever. I don't hate material things. It's just I don't have that attachment to them anymore. I don't have the attachment to having that stable life and home and like partner at home who's there and like everything's gonna be the same every night. I can
Yeah.
forget that, which has thrown me into this place where I'm like, I don't think I've done a podcast in the same place in like 5 episodes. I'm in a hotel right now in a totally different spot, and it's awesome. And I'm traveling again in a couple of days. I'm going to drive up to Boston, flying to Europe. I'll be gone over there for a month, and we'll still be doing all of these live streams and podcasts, and nobody will even know except for they're going to see the background is different. Like
Right.
I could never have done any of that stuff without the things that I deemed shitty, horrible happening. If that stuff didn't happen, I would not be in a position to invest in myself and grow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe I would in another way, but it's not in the way that I am doing it. And this is the way that feels right. I've had wanderlust for years. And, I mean, deadly loyal to my mother. I was so close with my mother. My father passed when I was young. So,
Mm.
same, I mean, you and your son are close. I identify with that. I have no problem of admitting that I was a little bit of a mama's boy. Not
Yeah.
in, I didn't live in her basement,
Right.
but, damn, I love my mama.
Yeah.
So that was a
That's
tough one. But to see it as like you know, a catalyst for, first of all, it's her own thing. So there's a catalyst for her soul that I'm not aware of. And if I zoom out, there's clearly effects to my current timeline. I mean, that not only could be good for other people, but they'll be good for myself, good for other people. They're transmutation situations. I mean, cycles end, people pass, relationships end anyway. So if we can find, if that kind of stuff happens and it turns your pain into purpose, then all the better. I mean, that's what we're
Mm.
here to do. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm starting to lose my train of thought on that one because it's something that gets me a little bit emotional, honestly, talking about
No, no,
my mom.
it makes sense. Yes.
And I guess I feel a little guilty saying like, yeah, I see a, I hate saying that I see a positive or a silver lining to that, but I mean, I have to try to see the positive in anything, like even if it's freaking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be authentic. I mean, that really is what I try to do now. So, and even if that means me trying to find positives in, my mother's illness and demise, I mean, that's kind of what transmutation is.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm having a growth moment right now, just saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So the reason why I study hypnotherapy is because after I became a marriage and family, or after I studied marriage and family studies, I took this course, this certification for thanatology, which is the study of death, and spiritual intelligence, and I studied them
okay.
together to understand the process of death and grief and all that stuff, right? And, and to be honest, like it's a death. We're so afraid of death, but it's like we're not really like
Not really alive.
it's the body is the body is going to decompose and stuff, but the spirit, your authentic self stays alive. It's
Mm.
infinite, it's eternal.
And yeah, have you ever had any near NDEs yourself, or have you had NDE clients who have talked about those experiences, like near death experiences, in your work? Have you ever spoken to people
Yes, so
about that in depth?
I've done some of my own regression my own regression or past life regression where I'm at the moment where I'm going to die, and I could feel, right? I could feel the pain physically, but every single time, most of the times, it's not the pain that you feel physically; it's the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It's the emotion, whether maybe because in my past lives I was killed. I was killed a lot. So
I've been killed a lot.
right? And
Hey,
so
that's
it was never the physical part. It was always the emotional part that really affected me, that really hurt me, because it felt like you've been betrayed. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
that betrayal that really hits you, and I needed to detach from that. I needed to heal that betrayal part, and I also needed to let it go and be like, oh, no, I'm not going to let anybody do that to me ever again. Like, I'm just
Right.
be my own responsible of my own things. But anyways, I have to go soon, just so you know, because I
That's okay. I know you're
coming
you're a mama.
baby's coming back.
So yeah, baby's coming back. real quick then, tell us what you've got going on right now. You've started running the Elia Bean show again,
Yeah,
right?
so I kind of going back into doing this Elia Bean show, just lives for now on Instagram, and we're
Okay.
going to Thailand on October 16th to October
Okay.
23rd. We have retreat over there. We still have space. If anybody wants to kind of join, they can just send me a message, a DM message on Instagram,
And
Elia Bean,
yeah, there you
and I usually reply. Most of the times I reply.
go. Just
Honestly, I'm very. That's probably the easiest way to communicate with me through a
Instagram.
DM. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So the easiest way to get a hold of a lie, everybody, is honestly through
it's,
Instagram, and a lot of people say that, and
yeah,
I say that too. It just is. I check it the most. Yeah,
yeah,
and, it's a quick just an easy way to get a hold of somebody. So
yes.
yeah, thank you
So
for letting the people know where you tend to check your messages and everything like that. Do you have a website or anything like that that you want to talk about? Anything else?
it is the www.eliabean.info.
Okay.
I don't use it as much, but I have it there just to have it. But
Mhm.
for the most part, it's I would say Instagram is the way I communicate the
Yeah,
easiest. Yes.
absolutely. And yeah, no worries on the time or anything. I think it's great. We had a conversation this week live, and that was fun. It's always good to talk about this stuff. There's always somebody that hears it that gets something out of it because I mean, I got something out of that. I was like, that's very. I mean, in a different form, a female form, having a son, different things, but the emotions, the reading of attachments, the lessons, they're very similar, very very similar. I
Yeah.
got a lot out of that. So, you know, for what it's worth, at least one person is that's the goal. Affect one person for positive change.
Yeah.
So, Elia, we will let you
Thank
get
you. Thank
going.
you.
Of
Thank you so
course,
much.
all your links will be in there. And if you could just leave the window maybe open for Riverside, if just leave the window open if you can. If you can't, no big deal. But if you could leave the tab open there, it helps everything upload perfectly. It
Also,
doesn't have
just
to
leave
be
it open like
active. Yeah, if you can. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything if you can't, but
okay.
it just usually takes like a minute or so to kind of upload the
I'm
video and the
gonna
audio track and everything.
walk to open the door right now.
Yeah, you're fine. And
Is it-
before we go, a quick shout out to our affiliate sponsors, Gaia TV. Thank you. We cannot wait to see what we can do with you guys in the future. Unified TV. There's a link in the bio for a free trial. If you buy the yearly subscription, you get free access to all their live events. And GFL clothing, which normally I'm sporting at least a shirt or a hat. Use the code Tyler33. The hat's on me. You get a free hat. Just make sure you add it to your cart. Right now, I'm obviously rocking a bunch of this sweet new immersive merch because, let's be honest, it's awesome. Uh, there's a lot of new merch in the Printify shop, so go ahead and check that link out. Just we'll thank Elia one more time. Everybody, thank Elia. She was such a great guest, and we're going to see amazing things from her. She's like she said, she's back from a break. So when people come back from a break, watch out. You never know what you're going to get. Anything you want to say, Elia?
No, I'm just grateful for this time.
Okay.
I'm excited. Baby's here now, so it's like
Baby's here. Next generation's here. All right. Well, with
yes.
that, guys, we are closing out another episode of the Immersive Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, send them to us. We'll answer you. And please like,
Thank you.
subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Really helps the channel. And thank you, Elia, the most.